If you are a book geek, then check out Audible, where you're going to get the largest selection of audiobooks anywhere on the internet. Sign up today and get a 30-day free trial to Audible. For more information, check out the affiliate link in the description area below. Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. If you've been watching my channel, you know that I absolutely enjoy learning, and I think this is a common trait that most geeks have. And the one place that I love learning the most from is books. So I'm actually a book geek myself. And one of my favorite books of all time is this book right here, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, I have the rest of his main books in his series as well, but this one's my favorite. And the reason why I enjoy Rich Dad, Poor Dad so much is because of the way Robert teaches you lessons on how the wealthy or rich think versus the poor. And so in a nutshell, what Robert does is he takes elements of his childhood and what he learned from his rich dad and his poor dad and how he takes that into building a very successful business later on in life and how he has become rich for the rest of his life. Okay. And so what the story goes into at the beginning is him and his best friend Mike when they were kids in Hawaii. And in this case, Robert actually had two dads, one being his real dad and one being Mike's dad, which is his best friend. And so in this case, it's a tale of two dads, one rich and one poor. Now, his real dad was actually in a very high level position in the Hawaii school district. And so he had a very high salary job. And then the other dad, which is Mike's dad, was actually somebody who wasn't academically educated. He didn't even finish high school, if I remember correctly. So from this, you're probably thinking Mike's dad is the poor dad and Robert's dad is the rich dad, but that's the furthest thing from the truth. As you'll find out later on in the book, that Mike's dad ends up being one of the wealthiest people in Hawaii, whereas Robert's dad just ends up being average with a very poor mindset. And so that's the main focal point of Robert Kiyosaki's lessons here through his storytelling. When he talks about him and Mike being kids, trying to make their own money, him working for Mike's dad and his businesses and learning how businesses work, how assets are created, how people are managed. And then that's in stark contrast to Robert's dad as a teacher, where he's thinking like, money is bad, rich people are evil, and that just because you have a high academic education, that's the way to go and that you deserve to make money because you have a high academic education. And so those two types of thinking is way different. And then it also led to the fact that one is wealthy and then one is not. And so what Robert does really well in this book is he takes really complex subjects, okay, and makes it really easy. So let me give you one thing that is really complex to a lot of people, and that is an income statement. And so what Robert does in the book, he uses really simple diagrams to show you what assets and liabilities are, who actually owns these assets, and then who's actually paying for it. For example, one lesson that I will not forget is the whole lesson of your house being an asset. That's what we're taught in schools, that our homes are actually assets. But what Robert says is, unless you are an investor, unless this thing is actually creating money for you, it is not an asset, it's a liability. In this case, your home is usually owned by the bank, which you are paying. And so it's actually a liability because it doesn't generate you any income. So that's a really important lesson just from the beginning of the book that just really changed the way I thought about things. And then later on, he talks about more complex subjects such as way businesses are set up, corporations, so forth, some things about taxes, and also more further details on how you could get started into this whole area of entrepreneurism and also having a wealthy mindset. And so this book, by the time you read it, I really feel that you will have a different perspective on what it truly means to be rich, what it truly means to be wealthy. Because a lot of times, if we just think about rich, we just think about you having money, whereas that's really not how you make money. How you make money and how you become wealthy is the education that you have, is your mindset. And that's what Robert focuses on so heavily. He focuses on educating yourself to think like a rich person so that you can become wealthy instead of being somebody who's average and has a very poor mindset. And so that is my quick review of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of my favorite books of all time. If you do enjoy these types of books, or if you just want to take a different perspective of things, I really feel that this will get you started on it along with the rest of his books. And so if you did want to get this book, I do have an affiliate link in the description area below where you could go get this. And if you also had any other thoughts on Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or any other similar books, I'd like to know your thoughts there as well. So as always, if you did enjoy these videos, you got value out of them, be sure to subscribe. And if you wanted to support my channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/Geek Outdoors. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.